ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Thank you for sticking with us through that marathon break. You had enough time to watch a whole Disney film, and I hope you did. We are, of course, back with the official English broadcast of the Overwatch Pacific Championship. Taking you through the rest of the night will be myself, Matt Pixie Carroll, and of course, joining me here is Kevin Walker and Matt Smite Ross. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and meet our two teams. We're going to have Fireball taking on Machi, and here's Fireball for us.
There we go. Fireball coming up on stage for the second time today. Pretty tough loss against AHQ. They're going to need to try and bounce back against Machi. Important because Machi are still technically the next team ahead for Fireball based on the rankings.
Yeah, if Fireball do take out a win here as well, they do end up tying with Machi as well, which is at least an improvement for what they had earlier in the week where they were just dropping games left, right, and center.
Yeah, speaking of Machi, here they are, of course, on your screens. And yeah, Fireball come into this fresh off a loss, and it was a hard loss. I mean, you could even see it on their player cams, man. They were really feeling it. Apudo was happy as ever, but the rest of them were really feeling it. So this is, again, going to be a bit of a test of their mentality as a team. But Machi, they're on a bit of a different boat right now because we kind of feel like this is the fourth place team. It just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, and just, you know, you kind of said it as well, you know, for Fireball is a team that's normally so chirpy, they look really defeated. Now going up against Machi, this is a team that if they win will tie with Hong Kong Attitude. Yeah. So it's still an important game for Machi in the sense that if they want to now get the fourth place, they'll technically be tied fourth, which is a good step, but they want to be ahead of Hong Kong Attitude officially.
Naturally, yeah. And I mean, that's also to kind of speak to the other half of that, Hong Kong Attitude, who are now picking up loss after loss after loss. I mean, formerly they've been kind of the gatekeeper of fourth place, but tonight is kind of the night match you want to set themselves up as being that team, right?
I feel like it's not so hard to break into the top four anymore. There's no real gatekeeper for that position. The gatekeeper is now all of the top three teams who are just keeping everyone locked out. There's a big difference between third place, which is at 10 wins, and after blank place tonight, it's going to be even higher than that. And then you drop down to the fourth place team, 7 wins. And if Machi wins here, it's just going to be another team at fourth place at 7 wins.
Yeah, it's a club and you're not in it. And
the membership is very exclusive.
Yeah, the barrier to entry is at least 10 wins. And you actually bring up a good point there, Smite, as well. I mean, after tonight as well, blank, after this game we'll be playing Detonator. It's unfair to call any game before it's happened, but certainly we're expecting that to be an 11-2 and a 2-12 at the end of that, aren't we? So that really demonstrates where that barrier is. You're completely right. I mean, best case scenario here, Machi tie themselves for fourth, keep themselves certainly in the running for playoffs, but there's still a huge hurdle to overcome. So I guess the thing I want to ask you guys is, what do Machi need to do tonight in this game to not just win, but also show that they could be a top 3 team at some point?
They need to be able to dominate Fireball as hard as HQ did. In fact, maybe even more so than that, because while HQ looked extremely good against Fireball, they had a couple hiccups in there, nothing too major, but they gave Fireball some room to work with. This is going to be kind of the measuring stick now for Machi, is their performance versus Fireball against AHQ's performance versus Fireball.
And then also as well, earlier in the night, AHQ did go 3-1 against Hong Kong Attitude, and that is actually the same result that we saw Machi do against Hong Kong Attitude as well. So the fact is, tonight, they've got to smash Fireball and show very few, if any, mistakes at all, and that's got to come from all players. Any player that starts slipping up, starts getting out of position, starts getting caught out the start of fights, or their ultimates aren't effective, that's going to be the target for these top 3 teams to say, all right, we'll just deal with that guy. Apparently he's the easiest to shut down. Let's deal with him.
It's interesting, actually, that you bring up AHQ as a point of comparison, because something to note is they've now finished their second round robin. They have done what Blank did in the first one. They've gone undefeated. So, in a sense, would it be fair to say that trading blow for blow, as far as that goes, like getting the same results as what AHQ has been getting, is enough of a demonstration of an ability to get into top 3?
Yeah, it's more like getting the same result, not so much on what it looks like on the scoreboard, but rather the feel of the performance and, you know, how dominant they look in the game and how dominant they perform in the game rather than what a scoreboard tells you. I mean, I would say it would be accurate.
Because they could go 3-2 against Fireball tonight and still pick up as many points as if they went 3-0. So it's all about their performance tonight, all about how much they smash Fireball to see how they go into the next round.
So to kind of jump on the Hong Kong Attitude comparison, do you recall specifically how Machi came up against Hong Kong Attitude? Like, was that a 3-1 that we would say was equivalent to what we just saw AHQ do?
Absolutely no. I think Hong Kong Attitude, the one that they got was definitely well deserved, and I think that was a game where I believe may potentially have gone to a 3-2, a full 5-map series. Now, Machi did come out very much ahead of Hong Kong Attitude anyway, right at the end of the day, but I don't think they were as dominant against Hong Kong Attitude as, say, AHQ have been that we've just even now seen tonight. So that's still a bit of a gap between Machi and where they need to be if they want to break top 3.
All right. Well, one of the other things that's kind of underpinned this second round robin, and you and I were talking about this last night as well, it's entirely been defined actually by Machi, especially their performance right at the top in picking up a win against, I believe it was Flash Wolves, and also they picked up a second win against a significant team. I can't remember exactly who, but certainly the kind of spin out from all of that has storied the rest of the teams through this round robin. So
Machi beat Hong Kong Attitude, I think, is the second.
That's the other big win for them. Yeah.
Exactly. So with that in mind, right, Machi are clearly on the up, and some things were obviously going wrong for them before. So are there still glaring things they haven't fixed, guys, that we can point out, or is it just a bit of polishing from here? I'm throwing the hard questions this way. Yeah, you guys are getting no breaks tonight.
That's the hard question. I think the biggest thing right now is it's a hard one to solve in a short period of time, but I think it's just that the mechanical level of their players don't seem to stack up to the top 3 teams.
All right, well, just to quickly recap the 2 lineups of these teams, in case you're only just tuning in. Of course, we saw Fireball before, but Machi consisting of Kant, Nonez, Kiyomi, DCR1, No Talk, and Restia. Is there anything in particular we want to say about this team?
Yeah, and that is that Rai, the previous DPS player, is still currently on the bench warming it up. And similar to the AHQ story, which was, hey, we traded Eddie Boss for carries, now they're looking great. Machi, ever since putting Kant on to replace Rai in that DPS position, have been on the up.
Which is interesting because before that we had actually pinned Rai as being quite a strong player, as quite a strong member of this team. So is there perhaps something happening here?
There is definitely something happening here.
Is this, yeah, hello. What could this be between a Pudo and NZNR? But in terms of Machi,
Friendly fire.
Is there maybe something happening there where Rai is a good player, just not the right fit for Machi?
I think it's been
Pudo, what are you
personally
doing?
too long for me since Rai has been out of the squad for me to really give you a good answer to that one. Still just tactical vibes.
Well, there we go. We were worried that maybe they were going to have a hard time to bounce back mentally, but honestly, Fireball look happier than ever.
that is one way to use tech visor.
They're just happy to be here. Like, even the support staff are laughing. Like, even the reps are laughing. Look at Machi, dead serious.
I mean, they're here to win, I think. Yeah. Not that Fireball are not here to win, but XCR1.
This guy's using
using
Deadeye. Look at that. That's high noon right there.
So here's the thing
look at him shifting left and right. Like,
what you want to remember about Machi is that in terms of individual players, they do have players that have played on the level, or at least have been ex-teammates of the current favorite teams, such as Flash Wolves, right? You have guys like DCR1 who has been on the same team as Zonda. You got guys like Kiyomi that have been on Nameless TW, which Jongi came from, which Zonda came from, which Realmint came from. These are guys that have been tested on very similar squads. So, in terms of individual members of Machi, they got remnants of that.
Do we have any particular predictions about the map? We're just going to see Li Zhang?
I think we're just going to see Li Zhang.
Li Zhang and...
Oh, it's Fireball's
actually,
pick,
yeah, right. It is Fireball's pick, so maybe not Li Zhang then. Maybe they're not... Fireball are not likely to pick Nepal because it's not been in their history. Their history has mainly been Li Zhang and the odd Ilios thrown in.
Yeah, they are the one team that does seem to like Ilios. And we've seen that as far back as players like Apudo pulling that out in the Oceanic Summer Series, right? So just in case it does come out, just for the viewers at home, what is it about Ilios that Fireball like? What is it they're doing on that map that's causing them to pick it?
They can very happily run Winston on all of them. And other teams usually like to run those Winston compositions as well. So there's not like... It's not like an advantage the enemy team has where they have the option of swapping onto Reinhardt compositions where generally everyone's just going to be very happy to run Winston anyway.
As a more meta answer, I think it's probably more to do with a surprise factor. You guys don't practice this match very much. This map very much, and maybe we do. So it's a case of, can we pull out something against a team where they may be underprepared.
It's kind of interesting. I sort of want to jump on something you brought up there, Smite, as well, actually, the Winston, right? Because there was a point in that first round robin where Fireball suddenly started picking up wins. They attributed it to putting Rocket on the Winston and running a very dive-oriented comp. But it seems from that point, they've again stagnated, right? Where this is now the only comp they can run and they haven't really got any other options available to them. So with that in mind, like, is there just a ceiling that hangs over this team right now?
Well, they're already currently hanging off the ceiling because if they lose to Machi right now, that is officially a worse result than their first round of the round robin. Because in that round, they beat the 2 Japanese teams and Machi.
And
this time,
it was actually against Machi. I think that was when they made the initial switch to Rocket on Winston, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, that would sound correct. That would be why they were so happy and relieved that the new composition was working. And yep, confirm, map is
Ilios, boys. It's Ilios.
It's
Well, there we
Ilios.
go.
Otherwise known as Ilios, but you know.
I've never heard it called that.
Otherwise known as any Greek island. It's just like, what's
Is
the one
Ilios a real place? Is that a
Santorini?
real Greek island? Is that
What?
a made-up place?
Ilios. It's a made-up place. Like all the places are like relatively made up. Like Gibraltar's exists,
pretty, yeah.
but there isn't a watch point there. I was gonna say that. Well, like you could go to a point and watch Gibraltar. There's probably a
Watch
lookout
Point
point, but it doesn't look anything like what it looks like.
No. Geographically, actually, Watch Point Gibraltar, the little lighthouse you can see off in the distance, you can get like a very similar view from that in real life. Like someone had photos of comparison and they look quite similar. So I was pretty
Because
impressed
it's
by
a
that.
real place. Like Gibraltar exists.
It's a real place, but it's not like they just gave it a name and gave it a theme and then just slapped it down.
You know, it actually belongs to England. Gibraltar actually belongs to England. It is an English enclave.
Nice.
Not
I
a
mean,
even though,
King's Row isn't a place that exists. It's just the actual King's Row itself may not exist.
but like there is probably a king that has had a row in London.
Yeah.
Like there is like an area, but like not officially like this is King's Row, and it's not exactly like that either. Route 66 is a real place.
Hey, Hollywood is a real
That's
place.
real. Hollywood is a real place.
Hollywood is
yeah.
confirmed a real place.
But I don't think what's the name of Goldshire? I don't think Goldshire Studios exists. That's baloney.
But it might exist because
It might.
Overwatch is set in the future.
So, and in the future there is a Goldshire Studio. What if Overwatch just predicts all of this? Like next year, like the Chinese government announced that they're building Lijiang Tower so that they can go to space.
Go to the moon to make Winston.
Yeah, make a guerrilla colony. And then Winston comes back and he moves to Watchwood Gibraltar, which exists at that point.
That's how it all develops.
That's how it happened,
It starts with
yeah.
Lijiang Tower.
So it all started with Lijiang Tower. I was there at Lijiang Tower.
But we're going to start with Ilios tonight.
Yeah, we're going to start with Ilios. We are indeed going to the Greek Isles, or I don't know, something vaguely Mediterranean. It's a beautiful place, isn't it? Look at that. Look at those ruins. Someone
No one
used to
lives
live
here.
there.
No one currently lives here.
Well, it's because they're ruins.
That's
No,
because
not
there's-
like, I just mean the whole island. Like,
Oh, but that's because Overwatch are there. Like, I would clear out, man. Like, if I heard, like, hey, Overwatch are coming because there's a lot of crime, I'd be like, oh, I'm out skis.
Oh, much is clear Fireball out tonight.
Yeah, that's the people who are living there, but we'll see how long they're alive for as this opening skirmish plays out. Lighthouse going to be the very first one. I like how they call it Lighthouse, but it's really just got a big windmill on it, and it's Fireball already taken the losses in that Winston specifically, so Machi not going to fall prey to the same thing twice in this rematch, already looking off to a better start.
I like the engage by Fireball. Unfortunately, not enough follow-up to actually get up in there. Only a Puro can actually follow Rocket. For into deny, you want the tracer damage. Unable to get up there. Nonez still currently unchallenged.
Yeah, I really like Nonez's positioning here, and you're right, unchallenged is exactly the right word for it. He is going to have to drop off that high ground now as Fireball are kind of trying to take the fight to the point, but honestly, the rest of Machi seem to have this well enough locked down. Can barely slipping away from Rocket there, and actually Rocket losing a bit of backup, but few picks coming through in the favor of Fireball on the point. Like I said, Nonez not committing off that high ground kind of hurt them.
Yeah, so for Fireball, they said, look, we can't get to Nonez, so we're going to get everyone else on the point. Apuda did a great job of clearing up the point. Then he went for Nonez afterwards, after Nonez had already then fallen off. And now the setup right here that you can see Fireball preventing Machi from getting the same entrenched location they got
Yeah,
before.
Apudo as well going to go ahead and open up with the Dragon Blade. Not really finding anything with it though, just sort of had to back off. That would have been good if they got some kills because it would have been a really early secured that spot. But actually what it's done instead is given Machi a window, which they're going to kick right open, broken glass on their feet. But making a good time of it, the sound barrier to come out from Fireball to keep the fight alive, but it's not really working for them. And Machi swinging back, like I said, taking the window that was presented to them. Oh, that's an unfortunate
Unable
loss.
to get a trade either. You know, if Kant went down there from Kurlos, this could have been a turnaround for Fireball. Now currently, Still trying to find an opening as, you know, the good news is Fireball have control of the point. Machi have to actually get this back first.
Yeah, Machi well enough set up on it that they should be able to get it, but honestly, Fireball are kind of milking it for all it's worth. That Transcendence, especially now, Rocket going to throw out the
They're
ultimate.
definitely milking it with that.
Yeah, they're giving a lot of ultimate charge away to Machi, but they're running down the clock, and they've got enough time that they can kind of draw ultimates out of Machi, then come back swinging.
Yeah, well, actually, Machi don't have too many ultimates, so they didn't charge a whole lot for Machi, which is good news for Fireball. Ended up being a really correct call. DSL1's positioning here could be really good. Not been spotted just yet. There's 2 supports down there.
Oh my god, this is going to be so cheeky when he goes for it. He's going for it now, kind of ends up in the building, and forces Nonez up to kind of back him up. Sorry, not Nonez. No Talk, the other no.
Should have kept your head down.
Should have kept your head down, Nonez. You
should
should have, but you didn't. Yeah, well, in any case, still doing all right here, Machi. Honestly, getting that 1 pick onto NZ and R has helped them a lot. Can throwing out the Pulse Bomb. Nice pick onto Rocket, and now they're the ones starting to run the clock down, and Fireball aren't really doing what they wanted, which was draw ultimates out of Machi instead. They're just kind of trickling in, not able to get a good position. I want them to change their strategy now, because Machi clearly had their number.
It looked like they were trying to maybe draw up ultimates out of Machi, but actually Machi had no ultimates anyway. So they ended up feeding players into Machi, and now they do have ultimates. So what they were trying to do in the last fight, they're going to have to end up doing this fight anyway, while Machi are now overtaking them in progress. So Fireball, they had a good lead, and now that lead is entirely gone.
Yeah, and these are all really strong defensive ultimates out of Machi as well. Those are the key ones to draw out of your Fireball. You've got to get that sound barrier out of the picture. There's a good start, actually, getting that sound barrier right off the top of it, because they got good opening damage on Restia. They're going to be forcing out a Transcendence here quickly if they're not... Yeah, there it goes. That's a good Transcendence and a nice tactical visor to secure the fight. But Apudo using his ultimate, maybe not ideal, but Fireball have done what they needed to do, which was build an ultimate advantage now.
Yeah, they're building ultimate advantage, and they got
a
the point
sneaky
as well.
as well.
So that's actually really sneaky, because it means not only are they allowed to lose for the time being, this would have been Machi going up towards maybe 90% had Fireball not flipped over the cap. So Fireball bought themselves a lot of time, got themselves a lot of ults. They're now in the lead in terms of ults, and they can go for a retake here.
Yeah, exactly right there. Fireball avoiding the time crunch for themselves. Now, same thing again. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Getting right on top of it this time with their own sound barrier. Boop going wide for Restia as Rocket throws out the ultimate, buying more time. No ultimate's really available for Machi, but the Pulse Bomb is big, and now what little they're leveraging that self-destruct did so much work for them. They just seem to have... Yeah, they just got the right kills. I mean, Fireball had everything going for them there, but Machi just absolutely dominated them in the frag for frag exchange there, and wow. That was a way to finish.
It was, but this was still fairly close, where Fireball, I think they made a couple of mistakes in there, particularly towards the middle, roughly their 60-ish% mark, right after Rocket did finalize his Primal Rage, got himself killed. That's fine, he delayed. Then Fireball came back for their counter push. That's when they should have played that situation better. They got completely wiped, put Machi further ahead, not only in ultimates, but on progress as well. And then they were on the back foot. They got the flip cap, they got the counter cap in there, but you can't reliably do that. That was Machi's mistake as well.
And also, though, to Fireball's credit, after that first fight where they really would have wanted to draw ultimates out of Machi to create a favorable situation for themselves, right? After that one, they then, with Machi having a big advantage, drew out all those ultimates that they needed to. So they did actually execute it right the second time around in a harder situation, but they aren't doing it consistently. Still something they need to fix up now, coming onto Well. And we'll see if they can turn it around here. Same exact team comp once again, as we've kind of come to expect from these guys. And Machi taking great advantage of it, just going really deep to try and route them out. They are the ones losing members here, finally picking out a Pudo. But even if the trays start going Fireball's favor, Machi is set enough on this point that they should be able to get the cap.
Yeah, and getting the cap early means Fireball will run out of time here. It does reverse itself over a little bit. It seems like both teams are getting somewhat equal trades here. Pudo dying early definitely put Fireball behind, but with Pudo back into the fight, they need to get a couple of kills.
Yeah, looking to get Rocket now, and they should be able to train him down on the site. That is a very key one for them, yeah. And I mean, even on top of that, they just had the positional advantage through and through, but Fireball getting some trades back means that they do actually get the cap through. So good positional play out of Machi, but at the 11th hour there, Fireball just kind of got the frags.
And still, you know, the fact that Fireball were able to stall out for so long, Fireball getting the cap first as well, this is now a similar situation to what we saw in Lighthouse. How long can Fireball hold on to this one? Can they get at least 60% again, just like they got on Lighthouse? Because that's kind of where the standard is. If they can extend the lead a little bit further, this could actually be a win.
And a good way to extend that league is to pick your counterpart if you're NZNR. So they take one of the ultimates off the table and also the key flanker there. Already making use of that as well, trying to force Machi back, really harassing Restia on the side as NZNR. Nonez is still trying to lay down this damage, and he is technically uncontested, but he's not having enough of an impact by himself to really pull Machi back into this.
Honest.
Exactly.
These are kind of like poke rockets that are super long range out and aren't doing... Oh, what?
Rockets, poke rockets. But then the fight opens out, and he finally figures out how to not just poke, throwing down the damage, getting a Pudo. Still not really getting much just aside from that, though. Hasn't got any good conks into the well just yet. That is going to force out. Deadly. That would have been huge, but that's forced out the Transcendence. But as Restia goes down, Machi again, still struggling in this one. Kiyomi goes for a tempo raise, but he missed Restia and no torque, only brought back DCR1. And Fireball are just kind of out-fragging. Lie there is the tempo raise. There we go, getting the big one through. That was just actually a straight respawn from DCR1, as happens when you die. Now with the ultimate running, they're still unable to really secure the kills, and NZNR starts trading back once again. So they drew out all the resources Machi had at their disposal and still held down the point. Fireball are playing this really well.
Fireball is so far ahead now, 80%. This is a lot more than what they had on Lighthouse. They're losing a lot of members now to Nonez, but it's a little bit late. These are kind of kills where Machi had already lost a point. They had already lost the previous fight. They're picking up a couple of these exit kills. Their team is going to reinforce roughly at the same time Fireball going to reinforce anyway. It will still be a 6-on-6 fight. The only difference here, Rocket Barrage is ready.
Kurlos going down at the start, though, could change this one around, and now committing the Rocket Barrage to create a numbers advantage. Getting a Pudo was big. They actually got a lot out of that. Honestly, picking the Zenyatta at the start defined that entire closing skirmish. So at the last minute there, Machi are going to get themselves some time on the point. Fireball do have plenty of time, though, to build up some ultimates and come back into this. And Kurlos is getting revenge,
Who needs a soldier?
man.
Who needs a soldier in this situation? Who needs a McCree?
Hit scan Zenyatta.
I mean, Kurlos did this against Dizzy on Icon World as well. This is how Fireball came on through and capped the first one Icon World against HQ so quickly. And if they get this counter cap right now, if they get the flip over, Machi cannot let this happen. Machi have to contest.
Kyo going down NZNR. He nearly got out there actually by the skin of his teeth, but him going down especially close to the res there means that they kind of lose all their opportunity to keep the fight alive off sheer tempo. And now Fireball, having already got the frags, had the ultimate advantage, and this is going to very quickly become insurmountable. And here they have it, the cap about to come back through. Apudo, he just kind of threateningly holds the sword more like a
could do this.
Yeah, he could. He's really rushing for it, but it's going to be a hard ask. Hasn't quite got the ultimate, and like I said, it would be a big tempo race.
1 second, there it is.
They're trying to force the overtime. They are going to be able to do it by sticking to the skies. Here's going to be the tempo race. Surely there it goes. And the sound barrier to follow it straight up so they can secure this one. Nonez desperately looking to get that rocket barrage in time. Kanto struggling to stay alive on the side. They need to start getting a lot of kills through very, very quickly. They're forcing Fireball back off this point, though, and that's going to commit out the rocket barrage to try and close this one out. Is indeed going to work for themselves, having forced Fireball into that spot. And yeah, they do just have to let it go. Still plenty of time to come back into it, but after doing it once, actually capping, and then not quite closing out, Fireball are going to start to get worn down.
And Rocket realizes, bad move on the Primal Rage. They still got time. They got 60% to play with. It is running out. They are bleeding out slowly. But for Fireball being this far ahead, for Fireball to lose now, if that were the case, that would be a disaster. It would be absolutely terrible. After going 99-0 in a fight that they should have won anyway, picking out Kiyomi, they're going to have to do that again. But it will be no ultimates versus no ultimates. Where are Fireball going to find the picks? Because that's where it's going to be important right now.
Yeah, it would be a situation where they should not have lost. And coming through in a bit of an interesting maneuver here. Machi, though, they're going to wise up to it quickly and try and get into this one. But Kurlos down, but they do lose DCR1 here. Machi, they're trying to stay ahead of this one, losing Kant as well now. Fireball, the respawn's about to come through. Knight needs to get back into this mech, keep this one going. And yeah, Pudo not really finding much for it, but trying to get Kiyomi, trying to keep hot on the Mercy's heels. Kiyomi runs right into the face of a Diva, did not have an out, and Fireball should be able to hold on to this one now, having got those kills secured through. This was basically a naked fight on both sides, and Fireball frankly just got a few more frags than Machi, much like what happened at the start of the match, and they should walk away from that fairly happy.
Oh, they finally get the cap, and this was still super hard fought from both sides. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I expected this matchup to be so even so far. I know we're only in control, we're only on the first map even, but I mean, you get a feel for why Fireball like to play this. I don't know if this is the case of what I was saying coming true, being that Machi under-practiced on Ilios, and Fireball just that well practiced on Ilios, who knows, but so far it would seem, while Fireball were able to pick up that stage of Ilios, I want to see the consistency now come on through. Are they going to be able to close this one out?
Yeah, and you can't help but question whether they can, just given how well played out there. I mean, it felt like really it should have been a shutout, and then it wasn't. Machi got a decent fight, and then there was a moment when Fireball should have won again. So you do worry whether that can be, whether they can be more consistent than that, because even in winning, they didn't feel consistent.
Yeah, so I've no question about the ability for Fireball to now win Ilios, but can they do it? It's a big question. I want to see how they adapt to this as well.
Yeah,
because now
they
Kiyomi
can,
is
but
sniping.
will they?
Now that Kiyomi is sniping, what are Fireball going to do against this? They need to be able to show ability to adapt against different strategies that Machi are going to pull out as well.
Yeah, this is actually something Fireball themselves have done a lot on Ilios, specifically Apudo favored this one.
There it
Picking
is.
Kiyomi there, that's the way to do it. Apudo, he knows all the tricks of the trade as Widowmaker on Ruins here. Now going to go Hunter Killer looking for these healers. Would be nice to pick up No Talk, but doesn't really need it as the rest of his team finds rest here. Bit of supportive combat there on the point. And Fireball setting themselves up very, very nicely here, really levering the opening frags and making sure they took the grounds that Machi couldn't by picking the Widowmaker.
You know something's wrong when DCR1, the tank, exits the fight before anyone else. I mean, the guy's first one in, last one out, but if he's first one in, first one out, something's not going right for Machi, and it's kind of
Bye there.
Bye there. Back to the moon.
What happened is like someone opened a can of peanut butter or a jar of peanut butter back in the spawn. Did someone say peanut butter?
Oh my god.
Just hoofs it back.
well,
Here's
we'll
going to be
be-
the counterattack though for
The
Machi.
second time around that Kiyomi comes onto Widowmaker, and does Apudo shut him down again?
It was a good enough start, taking out Endinar, but not until Endinar had already done some damage onto the side. Now Kant struggling
Oh,
a little
yep,
bit with the
Apudo
harass.
got him.
That's a very big one once again. Like I said, Apudo, he knows the tricks of the trade. When you're Widowmaker on this map, Kant goes wide with the Pulse Bomb, and Machi don't really have
I think I'll
anything to
eat it.
use here. They're just going to have to, I think you're right actually, they're just going to have to back up. Kiyomi, realizing that it's not working, swapping over to Soldier now.
Yeah, and sure enough too, getting picked up by Apudo twice in a row, where's the protection? You gotta kind of question that part as well. I know they're not running a Diva or anything, but Kiyomi hasn't landed a single kill on Widowmaker, and it's about time they got off. Unfortunately, we're at 60% now. 5 ultimates for Fireball. This is looking like a repeat of Well. However, if it is a repeat of Well, Machi have a chance to come back in as well.
Yeah, well, here we go. Apudo already going to try and get on top of the healers. Oh, picking No Talk, that's huge. And now securing Kiyomi as well. And that's only really the one ultimate used as well. And now committing the Pulse Bomb. The rest of this has just been sheer opening up. Nonas is going hard with an ultimate here to just try and force it to happen. But I think that was, yeah, that was a very single-minded play there. And I mean, they got a couple of kills, but that was not a well-used ultimate. Fireball still had the point, and they still have ultimate advantage. I think they needed to just play a little bit more patiently, Machi, because now they don't really have the time to set themselves up ideally. They're going to be fighting an uphill battle from here to the end, and I don't know if they can do it. Trying to close it out now with a Pulse Bomb. They're trying.
99.
They're trying so hard, but Apudo with his Dragon Blade is looking to secure this one. Getting no Nez, no nonsense is Apudo, and Fireball ready to secure this one and turn it at 2-1.
There's only a Transcendence left for Machi as well. They're going to use that one right now, but what are they keeping alive here? There's not a lot. Here comes Attack Fires as well. Opportunity try for Machi
nope,
to
not
actually
anymore.
get themselves back in there, but they will get shut down straight away as well. I'm expecting 100-0.
I'm absolutely expecting it 100-0 now. I mean, Machi have kind of drawn it out a little bit longer just because they got a few ultimates at key times.
This is trickling.
Yeah, they got ultimates at key times to extend overtime, but not at key times to turn a fight around. So they were using them with like 1 or 2 of their own teammates on the point to buy more time, but they weren't using it on a whole team to actually be effective. So that was just well executed by Fireball, honestly. They read what Machi did, and they played against it perfectly.
Especially with Machi coming out with the pick like Widowmaker. They came out with the pick that, hey, a lot of other teams are running this. We see Blank run this. We see even Flash Wolves come out with this a little bit. Machi, though, got shut down. They just didn't get the results. And here's the other problem is, sure, maybe Kiyomi didn't hit the shots. What are the other 5 people doing? Because not only did Kiyomi die early, but as soon as Kiyomi died, you see DCR1 jump out of the pit. What happened on the actual point? They're not winning either on the back line with Widow or on the front line with the other 5 players. They're losing on both fronts.
And then what happened after that, after they swapped onto the Soldier, they had enough time to get one fight, draw the ultimates out of Fireball, and then go in for a second one on a more even playing field. But they overcommitted on the back end of that fight. They made an amateur mistake with Nones committing his ultimate, and they turned what should have been 2 fights into one long, drawn-out, losing fight. So now let's see if they can brush that one up. They don't want to lose well a second time in a row.
Well, they're starting things off, I find, with a more safe composition, not relying on Nones as Pharaoh, which, to be honest, I didn't think was too hot anyway. Now we're going to find out if they can use something else, which by the way, they are picking up the early kills.
By the way, yeah, Kiyomi Carry, here's the one who got both of those. First onto Rocket, then NZNR, and was on such low health the whole time. Like, who will heal the healers? So there we go. Honestly, putting the team on his back, right? This payload is moving like a fire extinguisher.
Well, so far, Fireball, they've won when they came out ahead early. They got the early caps.
Moving like a fireball extinguisher.
Moving like a
You've seen that clip, right?
I have, but
Yeah.
I'm just...
I mean, okay, it doesn't work because this is an escort, but still, it's the Zenyatta making it happen.
Yeah, and to be honest, Kurlos is the other Zenyatta that has made it happen on a couple of these other stages as well, so we'll have to see if Fireball can swing this one back around, because we haven't seen, realistically, Fireball come back from being behind it. We've seen Fireball lead early. We've seen them lose leading early.
Man,
as
look
well.
at that. Ends it in Hunter. He knows who the real carries are here. Straight after Kiyomi. And then he went on to DCR1. It's actually a real big commit out of Restia. They want to try and draw as much time out of this as possible, feeling that they'll have enough other ultimates later on that they can afford to lose the point. I don't disagree with it, but Fireball are poised to win this fight.
Fireball are about to pick up a lot more ultimates, including this one right now with the sound barrier. Machi.
Losing NZNR though, that's a little bit rough for them. Aputo opening up with the Dragon Blade, really struggling to find anything, and Nonez does have his own if he really wants to commit. They find DCR1, but yeah, here comes Nonez now. Committing onto the Transcendence to come out of Kiyomi now. Oh, quick sticks here. This is really, really back and forth. Like, they're just kind of flying about. Everyone's throwing everything they can at this point, but this is really just time on the clock for Machi. So an even playing field is actually a playing field that favors them. And then on top of that, they do end up winning the fight while holding on to ultimates.
We are still seeing Fireball committing ultimates into a losing fight. I don't know what the self-destruct there was for. He had an opportunity to just dive himself straight into the well, suicide, and just respawn with his team, and with still holding onto the self-destruct. Now using it then, didn't do anything. Fireball getting further and further behind. We're already past 90%. Machi have all the ults. Pudo's already dead. This is looking disastrous.
Yeah, they're really not off to a good start. They do get a good trade back onto Kiyomi, but that's probably not going to be enough. He's not the ultimate carrier here, and they're not really picking onto those just yet. No Talk can even just throw out his ultimate now to zone Fireball, force them off, and let Machi open up with other things instead. But now they're getting the kills through, already picking out Ninth. They don't even need to use their ultimates. They still have them if they really want, but that is good discipline out of them to hold on to them if they didn't need to use them, and there should be Machi evening it up 2-2.
And this is the Machi that we thought we would see, not the Machi that we've had for the last 3 stages, which looked a bit shaky, looked a bit unsure of how to get past Fireball. A 100-0 on Well. This is a big turnaround after just having lost Well not even long ago.
Yeah, not long at all, but that was, like you said, a big turnaround. The first one as well was, dare I say, shaky out of Fireball. Like, it should have been a much better closeout. It really should have been. And there were 2 opportunities where they should have just won outright, and then they flubbed both of them and were lucky enough to get a third, right? So, by comparison, Machi's win there was a much cleaner one.
I wouldn't be concerned now if I was Fireball, because Fireball still had some very great moments there, particularly on the 2 that they have won so far. Now,
Oh, back to ruins.
it's a lot more concerning for Machi, because the fact that they are dropping to Fireball, we expected more out of this team. This is a team that beats Honko Attitude. This is a team that beats Flash Wolves. What's going on?
Yeah, what is going on indeed? Well, what's going on may just actually be that Fireball have picked Ilios, and they really are just more favored on that. I mean, they like this map, and they have good performances on this map. So maybe this is, the one place that they feel they can beat anyone, and this could well be a match where that becomes true. But they're going to actually have to beat Machi, because this is now even, whereas they could have closed it out just a moment ago on Well. No one really coming out the better for this opening skirmish just yet, but the positional advantage favoring Fireball for now. They're the ones set up on the point, and now Machi going to be drawn onto this point. Bit of an interesting one though, because that point is technically low ground, and there we go, Aputo going down, should start to swing it the way of Machi. Nonez just barely staying alive as they pick Rocket as well, as good news for them. Nonez by a sliver of health there.
Died.
Yeah, that is really good stuff. Machi swinging back even as Fireball were about to be set up on the point, because like I said, technically the point is low ground here.
That's correct, and the thing about that is the first team that goes there do expose themselves. And in the opening skirmishes, where much of it is about the poke damage, much of it is about how low you can get your opponents to find an opportunity to secure a kill. If you're going to go on the low ground first, you're exposing yourself first.
And normally being the team set up on the point first is favorable. Like 90% of the time, it's favorable. But this is the one map where it's that 10%. And here we go already, Machi again taking advantage of it. They don't sit on that point. They draw Fireball into the trap first. This is very, very simple tactics here. And Fireball are kind of falling into it. They don't have the same abusable thing that Machi are doing. Fireball are really struggling to find their feet in this one.
If it is a trap, it's a trap that's been set, sprung, and reset. Because Machi is so far ahead in every single regard. Fireball's still looking for an opportunity. I don't know if Fireball realistically have gotten praise at all. It's been Apudo dying very early every time.
Yeah, it's like Yu-Gi-Oh! You've triggered my trap once again now as Machi opening up. Nunez with that Dragon Blade. Not really finding much for it though, as Apudo has his own running, and that was a double Transcendence as well. Once again, a lot of ultimates just kind of being thrown around here, but it's not Machi coming out on top of this one. Fireball didn't even have as much as Machi. Machi just kind of threw them out at some slightly awkward times, and Fireball were managed to... I don't know, they just lasted. Like, that's all it was. They just outlasted Machi there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a Transcendence battle, as you said. Both were committed, both Dragon Blades committed. Apudo committed his slightly later, but Nunez looking for anybody, whereas Apudo found specifically Nunez by shutting Nunez down. You then saw the snowball that Apudo went on. He committed and killed, who was it? No Talk straight after that.
Yeah.
Then went on to other members. Fireball cleaned up. They're finally able to get a cap. And they got every single ultimate out of Machi, so Machi, that is not a good place to be.
Yeah, and they've got their own. That was Machi as well, committing a sound barrier very early in that fight. So like I said, Fireball
that's right, yeah.
lasting through that, and then the Transcendence, those defensive ultimates, while taking the brunt of the aggressive ones as well. But Fireball the one set up now. Oh, that's a good force out from Rocket though, and now the sound barrier as well. Machi coming back swinging as they force out really all the resources Fireball had. Now Kant can still look for a pick off to the side as they force NZNR out of here. Apudo the Dragon Blade out and already picking up Nunez. That is a good one for him. Retsu as well. So just kind of putting the team on his shoulders again, even as Rocket went down there.
Classic
And
Apudo.
NZNR was forced off the back of the fight. So Machi, good start, but Apudo says no.
What I wasn't too impressed about with NZNR missing the pulse bomb, then failing to get the kill into Ristia as well. He got Ristia on like, what, 25, maybe less than 50 HP, but just couldn't get that. As a Tracer player, you need to be able to get a lot more consistent than that. Now comes the Transcendence.
Wow, very early.
They will be committing into this very hard.
Yeah, they really want this one. It's going to force out the Transcendence from Kurlos as well. Oh, and the sound barrier has to keep Kant alive there. That was, again, a good force by Fireball, but Kiyomi goes down anyway. And Fireball, they're just all over Machi here, really running circles around them. And it's about to get dire. Machi, they really just need to pull off here and come in for one last fight, but no such luck. Nunez is going to commit right now, along with DCR1, but they're not actually finding the kills. Again, Fireball, all they had to do is outlast here. The only one they got was Rocket. NZNR going to come back in to try and wreak havoc if they can. Kant looking to carry. They did get a sneaky cap in, but Fireball had plenty of time to get back on this.
That's the second time Nunez has pulled sword and found nothing. This time, last time I forgive him because it was in the middle, at the start, actually not in the middle, at the start of a fight. This time, it was right at the end of the fight. Fireball were already retreating. You were only going to get fallback kills anyway, which aren't going to help you because Fireball going to just respawn, regroup. And Fireball, they lasted that cap 94%. This is a lot. Apudo's turn.
Oh, once again, he does find his counterpart, but not so...
That's better than Nunez.
Not getting much more after that, though, as DCR1 shuts him right down. They don't want to let Fireball get back on top of this one. And they already kind of forced Fireball into an awkward position off to the side. So Machi, once they did have that last cap there, they made sure that they were going to close it out. But I won't call it a lucky cap because they did execute it well enough, but Fireball had the opportunity to still win that fight and not give the cap up to Machi, and then after that did not have the opportunity to get back on the point. So a bit of good play out of Machi, a little bit of poor play out of Fireball as well. It ends up in a Machi win.
A nice boob kill from Ristia as well, but yeah, I think Fireball, 94% is what they ended Ruins on, and absolutely I believe they could have and almost even should have won Ilios.
Yeah, maybe it could have just been anyone's map, but I'm going to kind of give Machi a bit of benefit of the doubt here, purely because, like I said, we can kind of postulate that maybe Fireball are just really favored on Ilios altogether. So let's assume for now that Machi did well by overcoming Fireball on Ilios. If they continue to have relatively equal performances throughout the rest of the night, then I think we'll have to look at Machi in a slightly different light. But what are the good things that Fireball can kind of take away from that, given that they did actually nearly win it at a couple of junctures there? What can they take from that moving forward now for the rest of the series?
Well, Apudo was at the very least finding better Dragon Blades than Nunez, but I still can't say that they were fantastic. Like they weren't amazing. And also the difference is between this game and when they played against AHQ, there's no carers putting him to sleep every single Dragon Blade. So he does have a lot more freedom to play with that ultimate.
There was no Ana on the other team.
Exactly. I mean, that's another big reason.
Yeah,
I guess.
it's really
Probably
hard
a
to
little
be
more
put
important.
asleep when there's no one with a sleep dart.
But there's also no one putting him to sleep. Okay, no one crowd controlling him, no one stopping him, and even though he wasn't getting the most fantastic 4-kill Dragon Blades that you see, you know, out of a ton of competitive matches and your own solo queue too, he was still getting better results.
What
than
Genjis are
Numbers.
you playing with? My one,
The enemy Genjis.
yeah.
That's accurate.
Yeah, my ones use right click against Lucio and then ask for healing. I don't know about your Genjis, man.
I think
But-
for Fireball, this is a good sign. I do have to take it with a grain of salt because it is Fireball's pick. It is an oddball pick, Ilios, that people don't usually play. And it is, I want to find out, like you, is this just because Fireball are favored on Ilios? Or have they stepped up closer to Machi's level, or have Machi dropped down a notch? Now, we're going to find out in the next couple of maps because consistency was something I brought up specifically for Fireball. Fireball picked up 2. Were they able to close Ilios out? No, but can they at least bring it back somewhere else along the line? I want to know if Ilios is a fluke or not.
Yeah, and now also this next map is going to be, of course, Machi's pick. So the onus is going to be on Fireball to perform. But in a similar sense, there's now a bit of pressure on Machi to prove that, okay, look, Ilios was just a bit of, like, they're just really good on that. We're still the better team, guys, relax. So I'm curious to see how this one plays out. We'll talk about what they may pick in just a moment, because there's something else I do kind of want to touch on that you touched on there, Smite, is Nonez with those Dragon Blades. There was a period there where he was looking really good, but suddenly he's kind of gone back to an old habit where he's just getting a lot of nothing. He's pulling out Dragon Blades very, very late. He's one of the few players that's still having...
No Nares, more like no kills.
He's one of the players that is still having a lot of issues, I feel, with playing in an undisciplined fashion, where ultimates are just coming out at the last minute. Ultimates are coming out when really they shouldn't be. It's hard to say whether that's his call or the team's call, but guys, it's clearly a problem. So what's gone wrong here? Machi weren't doing this a week ago.
It did seem like a little bit of knee-jerk reactions, and I did see it maybe out of both sides, but definitely more on, I've got to say Machi actually, during one of the Ruins matches, where there was a moment where 3 of them were already dead, and surely this fight was over, but they were throwing things out like sound barrier, and then I think a self-destruct as well, which clearly just got melted straight away as soon as he got back into the mech. They found nothing
That
with
was
those
Fireball.
ults. Was it Fireball?
Fireball was the self-destruct that got melted.
But there was actually, you're not completely wrong, because there was actually a fight specifically with Nonez on Ruins where they had time for 2 fights. This is the one where they were picking Widowmaker, and I touched on it during the game as well. They had time for 2 fights. And then off the back of the first fight, they committed a couple of extra ultimates, notably Nonez, when they should have retreated, and ran down all the time they had for the second fight, and then kind of had to just trickle on. They put themselves into an unwinnable situation, which is really just, like I said, that's the worst possible thing that can happen when that undisciplined play comes around. So is this like a team thing that they're just getting wrong, or is this Nonez making mistakes and forcing his team into unfavorable
I want to say that it's perhaps just so far in control, because the big answer for me will come when we see the hybrids and escorts and assaults come out. That's when I want to be able to have a look at the team cohesion a bit closer for Machi in particular, going onto a map with more set objectives, being that you are attacking, you're pushing a cart, or you are defending a point. What are you doing then as a team? And where the macro really shines a bit more, I want to see how their team cohesion relates to that.
All right, let's...
So yeah, just going back to like whether it's the individual players throwing out these ults where maybe they could actually save them, or if it's the team's call. At some point, after it's been happening enough, whether it's the individual player making those calls themselves or not, it becomes the team's responsibility to start reining them in. It needs to be said to them that, look, we need to start saving our ults here. This means you. After this fight, after a whole round of Ilios where it's been a problem. Now, I wouldn't say anyone stood out except perhaps maybe Nonez, but even then, not specifically more than the rest of his team. So
I'd say definitely maybe Nonez.
definitely Nonez. Okay, so yeah, I'll give you Nonez. But at that point, it becomes his team's responsibility. It's not just his fault. It's his team's responsibility, his coaching staff maybe as well, to rein that in and make sure it's not an issue any further.
Because it's one of those interesting things, right? Theoretically, the team decides when certain ultimates are used. So you can argue, okay, if it looks like Nonez is using his ultimate too late, then actually someone on the team has made a bad call. But also, we do know that sometimes in the heat of the moment, you just do things. Because as much as a team call needs to be made, sometimes you do just have to use your better judgment. And if your better judgment is wrong, well, that can be equally a problem. So it's really just a dilemma a lot of teams have to face. It's hard to disseminate exactly what's going wrong there, but let's draw attention to the next map pick, which is, of course, Numbani. And I kind of want to open the discussion about this map, more drawing attention to what you've been saying in terms of now seeing what we saw on Control and how it's going to apply to Hybrid. So what do Machi need to not do to win cleaner, and what do Fireball need to do to win?
Well, Fireball is still heavily reliant on dive right now.
And I need you to show you're working for full marks.
Yeah.
I'm just going
how
like,
you did it.
yeah, I've got real essay questions here, right?
Yeah, in 500 words or less, what do they need to
Yeah,
do?
discuss
know if
the
I can do that.
themes expressed in Numbani.
Kill Machi cat point. They need
That
to,
is
they
less
need,
than
they
500,
need,
no.
That is correctly less than 500, but they need to be able to perfect this dive, because what we said of their match against AHQ is dive is all they can currently run, but dive they are not even successfully executing properly. They're not coordinating the damage up, they're not coordinating the tank and the DPS sort of cohesion there. Like, you watch Bacon Jack and Jongi, they've got it down pat now. You watch Apudo and Rocket together, it's not quite so clean. Rocket will go in, Apudo might come in a bit later. Neither of them secure the kill onto what I believe Nunez on Lighthouse playing Soldier, and they both sort of leave there. In fact, I don't think Rocket even made it out. He got killed in there. So it's a kind of failed dive that for Fireball, if they want to be able to do this, they have to execute properly. Now, even on the defense, if they're going to run counter dive in defense, which is, you know, the fact that they're playing dive at all on defense means they have to find the opportunity to initiate. You're a team that you can't really afford to be initiated on. You have to find the opportunities where you can get in there and start the picks early.
Now, on the note of what Machi needs to do to win cleaner.
About to say, go ahead.
So, after we saw on Ilios, the biggest, I don't know, what we call it, advice for them that we've had on this couch here, is that their ultimates need to be cycled a little bit.
Biggest advice, Machi, if you're listening, this is our
Machi
advice.
or Machi fans.
Advice
if you want to
couch.
them.
Yeah,
But
Machi fans just like spamming their social media, like, guys, this is what you got to do.
guys, these guys on the couch are telling you what to do. But so what?
Never mind your coaching.
What I'd like to see them do, and what can result in them winning cleaner, is similar to what they were doing on Ilios, where ults were just being used in fights they've already won or fights they've already lost. And that's going to be way more important on Numbani, where point A, it's not like Kings Row or Hollywood, where you can end up winning trades slightly inefficiently, but because you are closer to the respawn, you end up overflowing the enemy. Numbani doesn't have that. You need to win these fights pretty cleanly, and that's also going to come into play when you get to the end of the third checkpoint. Ult cycling is going to be super important. You cannot just throw out these ults, otherwise you'll get punished.
Yeah, and it's also going to come down to the value you extract out of them as well. Any more failed ults out of Nunez from whatever he plays, being Soldier or Genji or what have you, is really going to cost their team.
Certainly is. A lot of questions indeed around this, and it is going to be Fireball first up on the attack. Looking to answer them, looking to prove that they are no one-trick Ilios pony. See if they can actually execute well enough on this. Already a bit of a shake-up, going to be running Kurlos onto this. This isn't really the same kind of dive that we've seen them run, actually. NZNR and Soldier over
That's the main
Tracer.
difference. The main difference is the NZNR. I expect Fireball to find some sort of setup play here where they can get NZNR safely on the high ground while also assaulting the backline of Machi and they get Kiyomi early.
It's a really big commit out of Rocket. Kurlos didn't have a sightline to him at all, but NZNR is now coming around the back part of this, and they've got a good enough position on Machi. DCR1 is the one trying to force NZNR off the high
Good
ground,
sleep.
which is not ideal for them. Yeah, great sleep means NZNR is now very much unopposed. Again, is going to be the commit from DCR1, but this is a tough nut for him to crack, honestly. But they do need to close out these kills quickly so that they can get on the point and actually cap it. They haven't really
Someone's
been
gotta cap.
capping it yet.
That's a mistake. I think wow, another one straight or that's going to be a kill.
Yeah, they, like I said, they need to actually like close out all the kills because of how the respawns start to come through for the defenders side here. So there we go. Now looking to do a little bit. Oh, rest in pepperonis, Kurlos.
The problem for Fireball is they didn't get one check. They didn't get the 33%.
Yeah.
And that's kind of awful when you consider how strongly they won that initial fight. To not even get the first milestone means resetting back to 0. You didn't get anything objective-wise. You're still straight back to the drawing board, back to exactly where you started.
And that was good up until the point where they went, no, we've got to kill this Winston and Diva completely first before we even touch the point. It's like for a moment they thought they were defending, right? But in
It
any
looked like they
case,
were because
yeah.
they're standing where Nunez is now.
Yeah, exactly. A bit of a mistake to not commit to that point, and Machi kind of leveraged that defender's advantage there. So now Fireball again on the offense. A few more ultimates in the pocket.
That's a kill. So that's a very good opening for Fireball. Now with the Nano Visor,
Yeah, big
as well,
follow-up.
they can turn this into a lot more, but they got a cap.
Yeah, they're committing all the ultimates once again. The sound barrier out to make sure that they stay alive through. And Apudo's just barely staying alive as he gets a lot of work done. And yeah, this time they are going to commit to the cap and they are going to make it work for themselves. That was looking fairly promising there, I'm going to be completely honest. Just having a brief issue for a moment there. So I believe that's going to be the cap ready to come through for them. That was the kind of execute that they were after though, right? I mean, that was the ultimates built up and then actually using them. No whiffed Dragon Blades. That wasn't Apudo finding nothing. That was exactly what Fireball wanted, right?
I think it was more on to Machi just kind of getting caught out a little bit there, kind of caught with their pants down if we're going to go back to yesterday's joke. So
No more pants.
more pants jokes.
I'm tired of the pants. Molten Core time, but he's not anywhere near this point. This is a bit of an interesting use of the ultimate because even like, the cap can just come through here regardless. Now he is going to try and get onto the point though with that Molten Core still running, but it runs out there. They're actually starting to turn this one back around though at the last minute. A good sleep onto the point here as they force the Diva into full retreat. Ninth, nowhere to run for that one. And they just took a moment too long, Fireball, to secure it. So after good execution, they now do not have the opportunity to do that exact same thing twice. It's going to be a much harder fight for this next one.
Especially with 1 minute remaining. The good news is they had 91.3. They were just so close to finally securing that. Getting the 2 ticks means any sort of advantage that Fireball can leverage here should theoretically turn into a cap. They have to kind of do what they've been doing so far, which is initiating properly. They get the good starts, but they're failing to close out the wins, and they're failing to deal with the respawns and the reinforcements from Machi, which is what's been winning for Machi so far.
Nona's got forced off that high ground for a moment there. They're going to go ahead and commit a nano boost there. Kiyomi already getting the work done. Now they're going to commit their own onto NZ and R, trying to get the trades back. But honestly, Machi have already done so much work. This is a skeleton crew from Fireball that didn't even commit the visor on top of that nano boost. So now it's just going to be Kurlos and NZ&R trying to fall back, but Kurlos goes down in that retreat. Now it's only NZ&R with no health left. Yeah, the rest of Fireball. Now the respawn's starting to come in. That was maybe a bit too early on that tactical visor. Nona's going to commit his own. And Fireball, despite 2 good fights, totally failed to cap the first point.
I think 91.3 is a good...
That's 91 point, not good enough.
Telling, it's a very telling sort of, I guess, measurement of how far Fireball, you know, where their potential was so far in this game. I mean, it's like they almost got there, but every single time Machi just had enough to come back in. Just stalling the point out, there was a time when they were almost capped out. 1 player was left remaining on the cap, but because the respawners were able to leverage their timings properly and came back with the proper ultimates such as Molten Core, Fireball didn't have enough gas to really squeeze out those final few meters to finally get that cap. I mean, it was very close, but guess what? Ilios was also very close.
Yeah, and not quite close enough. So, I'm going to be honest, I want to speak to the other side of that, in that I actually think Fireball whiffed that. I think they whiffed that twice. They having got themselves into a position where, honestly, most teams would have then actually got the cap, they then did not continue executing properly. Like, it's not good enough to get into that position. You then actually have to do the follow-up. It's like when you're playing, you know, second point assault, right? It's not enough to get the full team wipe. It's then setting yourself up on the point that you can then continue to get kills as the enemy team respawns so that you actually get the cap, right? So, I feel like there was a bit of a failure to close out. And like I said, it's a failure that seemed to happen twice. And that really doesn't bode well for Fireball.
I mean, here's the other thing. Is imagine if Fireball got that first take on their initial cap through, their initial attack, I should probably say, where they won the fight, but no one actually saw the cap. And they had that 33%. They missed out on getting the first cap by only, what, 8.7%? They would have easily had that had they gotten that initial 33 to start with.
And now Fireball, all they really need to do is just cap out this first point.
And not even cap it out, they just have to reach 91.
Yeah, I mean, and like technically not really, but I mean, like you said, it's only a few percentage away from the cap out. Like, it might as well be a cap out. You're going to play this as though you need to get a full cap. Just, you know, you can get past 91%, then
pretty much.
You're basically playing to cap.
But you still need to find a decent opening here, and it's going to be a very standard defense on Numbani. Fireball, NZ&R sitting onto the back battlements, while Machi are going to try and get Cant on their own battlements.
Simple geometry to get himself out of there. Losing DCR1 though. Restia,
Wow! Reflected the sleep.
yeah. Restia kind of left the pocket of Nonez for a moment there, and it forced Nonez to retreat as DCR1 died. So with very little effort, Fireball kind of repelled that first push, but there is still a lot of time for Machi.
It's also very little loss. Well, not little loss, but it was the minimal loss that Machi could have afforded to take, which is one player down, immediately retreat, don't take any more casualties, regroup quickly enough to take another fight. 1 minute does already expire.
Whoa, right on to NZ&R, and now Nonez as well getting the mileage. He's looking to, oh, what a sleep. I was about to say he's looking for Kurlos, but that was a great reaction out of the man himself. And now DCR1 with that nano boost. Not even a nano boost, he was just glowing for a moment there. Just, you know, looked really good today. Kurlos going to try and come back into this so that he can keep effecting this one. As Rocket with the ultimate running is struggling to close out these kills, and now he's really got no team to back him up if he's not careful. Going to go down here as well. Now, Apudo probably going to come in and throw out this Dragon Blade because they can't really afford not to. They do just need to wait maybe for a few more respawns and come in and more.
Already.
Yeah, they need to come in a concerted effort, but they've got to go now, or it's going to be too late. They aren't going there. They go finally. Apudo gets onto this one, but they need to make sure they keep numbers on the point at all times. It's not going to happen as Apudo goes down. Kant with the tactical visor to secure that one, and even Restia throwing in some damage with the side up, as they're just killing these Fireball members as they trickle onto the point, doing everything they need to do to secure this one out. So unlike what Fireball did in the first one, Machi going to make sure they secure.
And I think you said, what you said before we came into the second half of this was quite important as well. Fireball, yeah, they really gave that away, I think, mostly on attack.
Here you go, Machi.
Mostly on attack, but here's the thing about defenses, that was expected. Both teams, I believe, were expected to cap out first checkpoint, no doubt. Fireball should have capped out, they just didn't. They gave that one away.
And they played well enough to cap out twice. They just then didn't, like I said, did not had that final bit of execution. So, you know, the bits are there, it's just not quite coming together for Fireball, but by comparison it is coming together for Machi. What I do suppose I want to say though, and I kind of want to open up the discussion, gentlemen, after this game with this in mind, because we spoke about it after that first one, right? It is important for Machi for tonight's win to be a blowout. So far, it has not been a blowout. It hasn't even been, you know, a solid win. It's been tight. It's been tight through and through. Even though Fireball are often losing because of mistakes, it's not like Machi are absolutely demolishing them either. So, again, let's talk about this in the perspective of these top three teams. Is this a signal that actually Machi can't break that top three?
Currently, I'd have to say they can't. Not unless Assault is just insane. And I know Machi have already beaten Blank on Assault, so I got high hopes for them on Assault specifically, but you can't say one game mode and one map is where, oh, this is Machi, but you know, you can't depend on Machi for anything else except for one game mode. That's not enough to break top three.
I'd have to say as well, I mean, on a control point, absolutely. Even though it was Fireball's advantage with their home pick, I still think that Machi should have demolished them a little bit more than they actually did. I mean, that was a map that could have absolutely gone either way. Even that fifth map totally could have gone back to Fireball at any point during that match. Now, coming on to Numbani, I think it was not as tight as it would have looked. Yeah, okay, Fireball, they made some mistakes. They could have easily capped that first point. But then Machi, they capped that first point. They still had time left. Who knows how far they could have taken that payload. If they were the ones that were attacking first, we could have seen them make it all the way to the third checkpoint and then end up holding Fireball at the first checkpoint. So it could have been a lot more. It's inconclusive. We don't know for sure, of course, but I don't think it's as tight as the results actually show. That said, though, I'm still going to answer your question and say that Machi in their current state still cannot break into that top three.
Yeah, you actually raise an interesting point there, right? Like in a theoretical world, had Fireball actually got that cap, I mean, evidence would still suggest, right, that they would have actually had similar failures further on down the line, like what they actually had assaulting that first point, where they, even in setting themselves up successfully, they failed to execute. But I will say, gentlemen, they are setting themselves up correctly. So that is something they weren't actually doing up until quite recently. So what do they need to do for that extra little bit to kind of push themselves over the line and really close out the execution on these fights?
Stand on the objective.
That'd be a start.
Just absolutely roasted.
Just
stand on the objective, Fireball, for goodness sake.
One of their teammates needs to like turn their camera towards the objective marker and mash F.
Be like,
I mean, that's the thing.
there it is, guys. There it is.
both teams are guilty of this.
Calling
because,
up the coaching staff, like tell them to stand on the objective, and they're like, oh,
Sorry, give me a second here, but both teams are kind of guilty here because Machi, if you remember correctly, are the team that on Gibraltar watch a cart get capped. Like, oh, I see it. That's Machi.
Machi are also a team that,
I nearly forgot about that. Oh my
in
goodness.
opposite situations, will let the cart, will try and do everything they can to stop the cart, even in a situation where it's one guy against a full team
like-
of blank members.
Yeah, you like overplay.
Yeah.
Overcommit to the situation.
They are guilty of both of those situations where, okay, they won't stand on the point when they need to, but they're also standing on the point and ulting when they shouldn't be.
It's like, again, in your ranked games where your Widowmaker does not stand on the point to like contest it for that extra second. They're like, oh, we're about to lose. Should I give us a chance? Should I give us a fighting chance? No, I'm just going to keep standing here and missing all my shots. I think that's the way to go. To their credit, Fireball do tend to hit the shots, but for God's sake, stand on the point.
It's a little bit harsh, but we saw the result. That was a
Yeah,
great.
it's not untrue. It did look like they were trying to defend.
It was, to their credit, that assault on the very first attack that they did, I thought it was great.
It was. They did
It
everything
worked
right.
fantastically. They sandwiched them in the tunnel on the balcony, stole the high ground from them. That's all the makings of a great attack on your first push. And then suddenly, it's like they were just going for the entire cap at once because they're saying, well, we can't drop our soldier and Anna onto the point because that's low ground.
Yeah.
That's how you turn into Darth Vader.
Yeah, that's low ground. That's low ground down there.
Star
Like
Wars
we got
quotes,
to.
learn
That's how we win the fight. It's with the high ground, or maybe like because they were stood exactly where you'd stand when you're defending. Just like the instincts kicked in. They're like, guys, we're defending, and then just forgot.
They went. That's not,
and then when they got to when Machi came back onto the point, they're like, oh guys, we've got to contest.
All right, but here's the thing: that they're not. It's not incorrect that they were defending there because had they been currently capping, they would have been defending the point, as did the defending
But
team.
even if they
in
had
control of
one
the
guy
point.
on the low
But-
ground.
But that is exactly correct because as soon as their real defenders are off the point, that's when the cap needs to start going immediately. There needs to be always somebody contesting objective, probably from both sides. But the thing is, very simple mistakes kind of led to kind of disastrous results. Like I said, 91.4 was it? 91.3 was their final result. Had they gotten that first tick, which I strongly believe they would have because their first attack was so good, they would have had the 33%, and that would have been more than enough to push them over to the cap.
They could have got the whole cap then. They should have got at least a third. They didn't get either of those things. Like, it is a huge, huge mistake. That cannot be understated. And it almost looked like they weren't even willing to touch the point at all until they had literally killed everyone on Machi, right? Which is a bad way to play. It's like when you're first learning to do something and you just do it like very explicitly step by step, like first I killed the team and then I get on the point. And then like as you get better, you realize you can do a bit of both at the same time and balance it well. And that's what good execution looks like. So you're right, they did everything perfectly right in that first instance as far as actually killing a team goes, but they still didn't have that totalitarian execution, that holistic thing of, and now we also get the point.
So specifically to the map as well, Numbani it's almost like, on the first point, it's almost like somewhere in between a first and second point on Assault with how far the attackers have to run. The defenders, I'd say technically have a shorter run, but it's not anywhere near the level of, say, the second point on any of the Assault maps.
No, not quite.
You're not spawning literally on the point. But
compared to first spawn on most other hybrids, it's very
compared
close.
to like Hollywood, Kings Row, even Eichenwald, it's a much longer run back for the defenders. And so at that point, it's definitely something you can think about where we can just cap this point in segments, and it all comes back to what AVRL said several times on this couch, is imagine if they got that first tick. Imagine if they got that first third.
Which they didn't even get. Like I said, they should have. Like, it's absurd that they didn't, actually. And the more I think about it, the more this is kind of getting to me, right? Because how on earth, with only a D.Va and a Winston there, and the Winston was asleep with your entire team alive, did you not even get a third of the point?
It's just back to
It
their mentality
boggles
of
the mind.
Their mentality of trying to cap the point in one go. And that was keep your soldier and your Anna up on the high ground. That's great for winning a fight, sure, but when you don't have anyone contesting the points, that actually gives time for, on Numbani, the defenders to get there before your attackers will come in and reinforce.
Yeah, enough of roasting Fireball now, though. So the other place we're actually going to be going now is Assault, of course. So with that in mind, gentlemen, Are we going to see this exact same issue out of Fireball, or can they actually turn this around?
I think, like I said previously, Machi are heavily favored on Assault. If previous results are anything to go off of, which is they beat Blank on it, and that's not something to look at lightly, because while Blank have had a history of also dropping Assault, it is also Blank. So.
All right. Well, we are going to go ahead and reopen that when we get a little bit closer, but for now we're going to go ahead and take a brief break. It is, of course, 2-minute noodle time, so go ahead and make yourself a bowl. We'll be right back. And you're back with a piping hot bowl of noodles. Thank you for sticking with us through that brief microwaving of snacks. And we are, of course, back with what will soon be the third game between Machi and Fireball. Gentlemen, Assault, we started talking about this just a little bit before the break. Still very Machi favored, and this is where Fireball's most recent mistakes on Numbani are going to be really exposed because of that defender's advantage that you were talking about. So, gentlemen, what do they need to do? What do they need to do here to turn the series around?
Well, it's all going to start a map pick, and you got two different things here. You've got Fireball, who love picking weird things on different maps, which suggests, okay, least common Assault, Volskaya. But then Machi, they beat Flash Wolves on Volskaya, so what? Are Fireball going to pick something normal?
No, I think Fireball are typically meant to pick a Temple of Anubis here.
They do tend to, yeah.
Yeah, that's been their standard pick. There's no weird Assault. I think all of Assault has been somewhat even, and when you really compare the ratios, Assault has been the most, like, realistically any map can come on through, and there's been no real basis for, like, you know, why one team.
Then you need a stand.
Just go.
It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Actually, just a bit of a side note here, because of the is this a Pudo?
This is.
Of course
No,
it's
this
a
isn't a
Pudo.
Pudo.
No, this
But what were you about to say?
I was about to say, it's kind of interesting, right? Because of the nature of how these tournaments work, with the first map being Control and then the second one being Hybrid, right? Control and Hybrid are the two map types that actually have a pool of 4 to Assault's 3. So there is just a narrower pool of Assault maps as it is. So like there is, just to kind of speak to the oddball thing, there is no oddball because there isn't enough for there to be an oddball. And the only reason there is an oddball on Control is because Nepal and Lijiang are so incredibly favored. It's basically those two, and for a while actually it was a chunk of Oasis, and then now Ilios is the oddball one, and just, you know, on Hybrid it would be Hollywood or Eichenwald. So what do we're expecting Temple of Anubis. So from that point, right, what do Fireball actually need to do on Temple of Anubis?
So I think for Fireball, they've I don't know if this is necessarily a fix, but it does appear so, maybe at least against Machi anyway, that in terms of how they're executing their dive, they are getting that initial success. And I talked about, can they actually close that out and turn that into a cap or a win or what have you? And so far, they haven't been able to get a full cap out of it, and that's obviously not going to give you a full win. So for Fireball, a good start, but they need to be able to squeeze out the final few meters and correctly, you know, secure themselves an advantage to then move on forward with and complete a game, as it were.
Well, I'll throw the opposite to you, actually. So we talk about Machi kind of needing a blowout. They do still have space to do that by getting an absolute shutout here on Assault. How do they do that?
Well, last time against Blank, I believe they took a double cap. In fact, actually got it to the 5th cap even.
Get that time back.
Yeah, huge amount of progress on for attacking.
You a watch.
For attacking on Machi, and so I want to see that kind of thing again. If you can do that against Blank, surely Fireball should be a much easier target. And so,
You'd hope so.
If you're talking about the results that Machi need to get if they want to prove, look, we're a team that can take not just maps but series off some of these top 3 teams, then Fireball needs to get at the most 1 point captured, and then Machi just needs to demolish them on that. Whether they're attacking first or second is going to depend on whether they get 2 or 5 points captured.
There you go. So basically, Machi need to stand on the point a lot.
A whole lot. I mean, like five captures. That's
that's 5 points.
I'm not expecting us to go there. I'm expecting realistically
certainly not.
1 time bank, if that. I think both teams. Well, I don't know about both teams, but I think Fireball may struggle to get the 2nd cap. I think Fireball will eventually get the 1st cap now that, you know, on Numbani we can say, hey, look, defenders do get a bit of a reinforcement distance advantage. On Temple Anubis, not the case. Fireball should theoretically then get the 1st point cap. But then when we get to cap 2, where every team, by the way, does struggle on that.
Yeah,
Fireball, I
certainly, yeah.
believe, with the fact that they've been struggling to coordinate and execute attacking strategies, I feel, properly. Now, they've had some success on Numbani. There was some success there, but if they couldn't close out on Numbani, I don't know if you can close out on Temple of Anubis, where attackers are even less favored, I think.
So I suppose in that regard, like a blowout would look like,
Like that.
just like that, like exactly that. A blowout would look like Machi attacking first, getting both points, and then like totally shutting out Fireball, right?
From capping
but
it
that's
all, yeah.
but that's only if Machi actually do attack first, isn't it? So it's really hard to say what a blowout would look like if it is Fireball attacking first. So I'm checking what that was.
Yeah,
that was
a little bit.
that was my inhaler. My inhaler fell out of my pocket. Sorry guys, I require medication. I'm sorry.
Do you need
require
healing?
I require healing, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Guys, I lost my healing. I need a ping for it.
Goddamn
Excuse
healer's
me,
always
yeah.
falling down on the ground.
Excuse me, I'm just gonna put this healing back in my pocket.
Okay, so for Machi, we talk.
Are you a pharaoh with a mercy?
I've got a fucking healer. Oh, for goodness
Look,
sake.
before we get into the match, fellas, I know that was hilarious, but Machi, we talk about
You're
how
right. You know
teams-
what? No, you gotta stop and laugh. There we go. Keep going.
So, Machi, on second point, we talk about how the teams struggle on it. Machi, not so much, but if they want to make this as clean as possible, then they need to cycle those ults properly if they don't get it on the first push. They can go for a snowball as much as they want, but if it doesn't work there, then they are going to need to work on that economy. Make sure they're not throwing ults into losing fights.
I really just can't stop laughing. I really. Oh, whew. Oh, there we go. Right.
This guy.
Yeah, I'm just
right,
ruining everything.
Would you like me to host now? Okay. All
Yeah,
right,
go
guys.
ahead,
So,
go ahead. Let's
all right,
just swap.
yeah, all right. Let's go.
Yeah, all right.
All right.
So go ahead.
So, gentlemen, predictions. It's prediction time, all right? AVRL, I'm going to go with you first. Who's taking out Temple of Anubis and what's the score?
It's definitely going to be Machi, and I'm expecting Machi will attack first because Fireball going to choose to defend. I think so. Machi going to fully cap out and then hold cap 2 against Fireball.
And Pixie,
Well,
your thoughts?
Like I said, a blowout would look like Machi getting both and then first holding. I don't know if we're going to see that, but I would like to see that.
All right, well, there you have it from the experts themselves. Pixie, the newly appointed analyst, believes that
All right,
we're
get
gonna
off the
see
seats, Mike.
Thanks very much for holding down the fort there while my giggle fits ran their course, and it is indeed, yeah, going to be Machi on the defense to kick it off, actually. So maybe they can still first hold Fireball. I love just Soldier doing the duck walk there. Looks so bizarre, like Chuck Berry.
This is a really
with
good
gun.
place for Fireball to be on. Actually, I think you need a couple rocket jumps to get up there. Either way, though, it's a good start, or a good positional start for Machi, I should say.
You know, when Chuck Berry died, I was like, I didn't realize Chuck Berry was still alive. Same with Muhammad Ali. When he died, I was surprised that he was still alive. Like, I don't know, I just hadn't heard about him for a while. But speaking of
still
people
alive.
who aren't alive anymore, Kant getting picked off and now No Talk out of the mech, this is actually a very good push for Fireball.
Oh, Nona's
really
stuck.
through and through. Yeah, now they're remembering to stand on the point as well. So taking out DCR1, forcing the rest of Machi up onto the stairs on the side there. Machi, I don't really think they have a good opportunity to kind of come back in for this
They
fight.
will anyway.
Yeah, they're going to give it a try. I don't blame them for trying, but it isn't going to work, and that is actually a cap out for Fireball.
Well, you know, I will blame them for trying a little bit there because they had realistically nowhere to get it back on the cap. No more tanks means you're running on there with a bunch of squishies. You are going to feed a lot of ults, which is exactly how far ahead Fireball now are. 3 ultimates, they're already on the cap. First one goes a little bit
They're going
wide,
for it.
but they have
That's,
massive control.
Yeah, it's a very well-timed Transcendence out of Kurlos as well, but unfortunately not closing out the kills with that Dragon Blade means that Machi now have time for the defender's advantage to kick in. Fireball, though, they've earned themselves a third, so let's give credit where credit's due. They've already fixed up a bit of what was plaguing them before. They're actually getting a couple of other picks here as well. Now, here we go. Machi swinging back. And even if they hadn't, the defender's advantage would have kicked in. Using a lot of ults for it, though, so Fireball well poised actually to come back in for another third in just a moment. Rocket altered at a bit of an awkward time at the end of that, though.
Everybody on Fireball kind of altered it a little bit awkward. You had a Transcendence coming out where no real damage threat was present, that being no ults coming up from Machi at all. You had a Pulse Bomb going wide from Incident and a Pudo, no kills on the Dragon Blade. So everything Fireball had going for them earlier on was kind of wasted.
Routing turret, forward barrier.
Nona swapping over to
Let's try that
this
again.
Sombra, that's what her name is. The Edgelord, as I like to call her.
I think that's
swapping
Rigby
over
you're thinking
Edgelord,
about, Edgelord.
Edgelord, indeed. Like they've just got a couple of edgy characters here, but this is the Spanish Edgelord. Actually, I guess Gabriel Reyes is technically Latin American as well, isn't he?
EMP is
And
charging.
the EMP will be coming up very soon
See
as
you
well,
later.
so a huge swing around for Machi, and the fact that Fireball, the credit again is they got their first take, they got that third, but I think with the advantage they had, 2/3 would have been the expected result. EMP went down as heroes.
Yeah, that was a very quick commit by Machi there, just throwing a couple of ultimates straight into it, namely the self-destruct EMP and sound barrier. It is a few resources used, but when it secures the fight and you've still got things like a Winston ultimate sat in the back pocket, you're pretty happy with that when they're just trying to make it as hard as possible for Fireball to get these thirds.
And the important thing for Primal Rage here, and I've mentioned previously in different games, is at least having the Primal Rage will ensure a guaranteed reinforcement from your team, because Primal Rage does last long enough, 1000 HP, people will be able to come back and reinforce in time.
Here is going to be the big commit from Fireball, though again, the 2 ultimates out already. They're very quick to commit with those,
Both
but it
DPSs
doesn't
involved.
matter if you don't find the kills. They only got 2, and this is where that respawner's advantage can start to kick in. They haven't even got DCR1 low enough to force the ultimate out of him, let alone lasted through the whole thing. They're actually, there it goes, finally going to come out, and yeah, this is where the defenders are going to start coming out of the base quicker than Fireball can kill them. So both of those ultimates committed for what was not at anything close to a wipe, really, and now Machi swing back. Fireball, after a good start, is starting to sloppily execute. I don't know what I was trying to go for there.
I like that Kiyomi actually gave the kill onto Knight away to a teammate, to making sure he doesn't take unnecessary ult charge when he's already currently using an ult. But for Fireball, I do feel like it was a rather good start, killing both the DPSs, which is Kant and Kiyomi in this case at the same time.
EMP is charging.
All the damage output from M17 were all gone, but they had to clean up the tanks as well. And like I said, also, DCR1, as long as the Primal Rage is available, you will be able to reinforce and reinforce. Machi did with the tank visor, which cleaned out Fireball.
I just realized that when she translocates, sometimes Sombra goes, ugh, I'm out of here. That's pretty great. But here we go, the commit coming in again from Fireball. They did get a good kill onto Kiyomi, forcing him off the high ground, but it's not really going to account for much. The EMP did a little bit of work. Even now, as they're starting to get more kills from the back end of this fight, the respawn advantage is always going to favor Machi. You've got to get a wipe or nothing at all.
And you know what? I really wish Sombra said, oh, I'm out of here when she dies, because that's when
The thing that made me think of is, like, can you imagine Sombra on a bad date? Like, it's going really awkward, and then she's like,
translocates
yeah,
out.
she's just like, oh, I'm out of here, and then just vanishes.
Yeah, doesn't
and her
even
date
walk
is just
out.
sat at the table like,
I might need this video.
that would suck. That would break your heart.
Yeah, don't date Sombra, but Fireball do actually need to get
She
past
did
this and bench.
there it goes, right there. I'm out of here. She had a bad date with Winston, went, nah, Dunskies, going home. Let's see, here we go. Winston, he's persistent. He's going to really go after her, but she's going to go invisible. He just can't find her no matter how hard he tries, and he's going to be stuck with the bill at this point, and the cost is racking up. So, again, Fireball kind of struggling on this offense. Again, their ultimates used.
they got
Again,
kills.
not enough kills. This time they haven't had
start.
anyone die just yet, but they're not really getting a third just yet. And again, the respawn advantage will come through for Machi because not enough of them have died at once. Sound Barrier gives Fireball a little bit more life here, but I still expect them to not quite get a third. Actually, I'm a filthy dirty liar. They've managed to get it. Machi had the numbers. They're not putting them on the point just yet. They need to go now, actually, because if Fireball do secure these kills, they can actually just win it outright here. But here we go. Now finally the kills coming through in favor of Machi as that advantage from the respawns kicks in. Fair and square. Second, third cap, though, for Fireball suggests that maybe they can just do it a third time and secure the second point.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a game of thirds for Fireball. They do need to chip this one out. They lost their opportunity to get it in one go with the initial snowball, but they got the third. They got the first third of that, which now means by chipping it out slowly, eventually Fireball, based on history, if they can get 2/3, they surely should be able to get the last one. Unfortunately, only 1 minute 30, 1 minute 25 left to go. They're likely only going to have 2 pushes left.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. First push really just has to draw ultimates out of Machi, and then second one actually secure
They'll
that
go into
last third
overtime as
point.
well, I believe.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky, and they need to commit pretty much now, and maybe they could actually be lucky enough to just get it on this first one. We'll have to see how it pans out, known as
Machi would have to
can
really
be quick
drop
on
the
the EMP, yeah. Knights needs to get a great hook around the side here as well.
Almost.
Yeah, tried to catch the Diva. They've picked
no
out
EMP,
Nones.
this is the
Yeah, they
chance.
picked out Nones off the top. That's a really great one. And now surviving through that Winston as they pick Kiyomi as well. They are starting to do the work now. Puda with the Dragon Blade wants to commit, but he's going to get caught by the self-destruct. He's going to have to duck into cover for a moment. Now ready to get back into it on top of the Winston. Sound barrier running. There's the EMP out now, but Fireball, they're actually getting a good number of kills through, just barely staying alive. NZNR needs to keep alive himself. Here's Zalx as well. Oh, did not commit the sound barrier. That could be disastrous. Why? Wait, that was the only time you really had left to commit it. They need to get a few more kills onto Machi, and it is getting harder and harder. That respawn advantage naturally starts to overpower you. Fireball, they are running out of time here to really commit hard to this one, and it is within
It's
a hair's
so
breadth.
close.
Not going to happen as Nones cleans it up on the back end, and now they don't really have enough time to get back onto
no.
this. Going to have to make a beeline for it and really buy time.
Well, you know what? That sound barrier that Zelfix saved, they are going to have to definitely use that one now, but I think you're absolutely right. He had the
They're out
opportunity
of
to
time.
use it. He should have used it. They were about to get into
They're not-
overtime. Somebody touched. Somebody
yeah,
touched.
I think it was NZNR, but here's going to go down. There's going to be the sound barrier, but it doesn't catch Rocket, who also didn't have his ultimate, and that was not good enough. It could have been used earlier. It could have saved Apudo, NZNR, and Zalfs himself. It could have swung the fight. It could have capped the second point, but it didn't. It was too late. It was at the wrong time. And for a team that so often commits ultimates when a fight is already lost, they failed to commit the ultimate when it would have won them the fight.
Yeah, I can't really disagree with any of that. I think for Fireball, this has been the entire night so far for Fireball is, well, I'll speak to just their game right now against Machi, is Ilios 2-2, failing to get it right at the end. Numbani 91.3% on the first cap, failing to get the final cap out. And now, on Temple of Anubis, it's almost like a repeat of both Ilios and Numbani. They were so close to finishing out the map, but couldn't quite get there. And I did actually predict this. I predicted that Machi were going to be able to fully hold out Fireball on the second cap. And I also predicted that Machi were going to be able to fully cap out against Fireball.
I also want to say, I mean, as much as Fireball were looking good in a bit there, like the fact that they were able to play for the thirds where previously they kind of hadn't been able to, at least on Numbani, they were also struggling with it a little, right? They basically committed to the exact same fight 3 times in a row, and then on the third one got a third, and then did the same thing again. And after 6 whole fights, they had 2 thirds. So I feel like, you know, if something is failing twice and working once, that's still not a success. Like, that is a 66% failure rate. And it's not like they were failing and drawing ultimates out at Machi. They were just failing and then sometimes also winning. And it just seemed to come down to whether or not they got certain kills. Right now, Fireball are reminding me of a disappointing Christmas. You know, where like all the presents look enormous and you're like, I've got so much cool stuff. And then you pull off the wrapping and it's actually just like a pair of socks in a humongous box. You know? But at least I like getting socks. Like,
Yeah,
new socks
you'll
are
take it.
rad. Have you seen my socks today? They've got lobsters on them. See? They got lobsters.
Thank you for
They
that.
really do. And it's like, this is my favorite pair of socks.
Really
you know? Got lobsters.
really enjoyed that moment we just shared. Anyway,
Just saying.
see if Machi
I've got a pair of socks with lobsters and I've got a pair of underwear with anchors on them. So I've got like
Gonna
my
be able to blow
nautical
this one out.
undergarments.
Nautical might just be right because I think Fireball's sinking at the moment.
That was like the biggest stretch for a pun. But you know what? I'll let you have it. Machi now on the offense, trying to set themselves up around the side, and here we are starting to break through the positioning, forcing Fireball into an awkward spot. Kant sticking to NZNR, not going to let him slip out of that one. Now going to look to regroup with the rest of his team. Is Fireball kind of having to rejig their entire positioning here to stop this push through from Machi, but they're not able to do so. NZNR respawning, may be able to get back to this point in time, but if Machi get a couple more kills here, they shouldn't have too much trouble securing this.
And so far, positioning looks pretty good for them. No Talk may lose mech here. In fact, does. They need to be able to get a few more kills. I think Nones is starting to bring it in.
Yeah, Ninth getting Kiyomi is actually quite good for them, but they've got the secures through here as they pick out Ninth as well. So Machi, like I said, all they needed to do was get a couple of key kills there, and they should have been fine to secure this one. Here it comes through now. Fireball are in a really tight spot. Caught off into this room on the
Literally.
side, the two, yeah. Two healers. I mean, naturally you often retreat to there because, I mean, it feels safe, but there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to run in that room, so this is the secure we were expecting out of Machi. To their credit, Fireball are bleeding them for like all the time possible, but they've just given a ton of ultimate charge to Machi, who may even snowball now.
I mean, this is exactly Fireball's attack against Machi, though. Machi were in a similar position, put into a corner where they actually, the difference is they had the opportunity to escape, but then Machi decided to recommit it away and give Fireball a bunch of ultimates. So I think Fireball are going to be able to get a decent amount of ultimates. They're going to get 4 in time to defend, which will match what Machi has in the bank as well. And this is going to give Fireball the opportunity to hold out properly.
Yeah, they can just still commit hard and fast and try and get a quick snowball win. Both Dragon Blades finding nothing though. I mean, I guess you can call it even, but it is DCR1 and No Talk finding the healers on Fireball, and that could be all they need. Now, they need to keep themselves alive though, but them managing to secure the kills, it doesn't even matter. Rocket forced the ult out there from himself. It's going to be the ultimate onto the point. Really throwing everything they can. Zalf says actually a good time sound barrier. Credit where credit's due. Kiyomi going down means Fireball are starting to try and turn the tides here, but there should be Machi capping a third here as they secure out Zalf again. They're really making it hard for them, Fireball. Again, I will give them credit where they deserve it. And now DCR1 really the only one keeping this first third hope alive for Machi. Gonna commit an ultimate actually. I don't know if I quite agree with that. Frozen up for a moment
I think
there.
Apuno changing onto May this early is, if they're already going into desperation stall mode and your best DPS player is not on an actual DPS hero that can get the damage output done, I think Fireball are in a really tough spot, especially if Machi can sort of keep this fight going, continue to commit ultimates, and by the way, they're still charging the ultimates they're using.
Yeah, the defender's advantage hasn't quite overcome them just yet. I mean, they're now getting everyone back onto this point, and at any given moment, there's only 1 or 2 members of Fireball. Sure, it stops it from being capped, but they haven't got enough kills onto Machi to secure it. Yeah, normally all it takes is a couple of kills onto the attacking side for that defender's advantage to overwhelm them, but it's not working for Fireball. And you're right, on this main now, they're starting to give up their win condition. They don't have a comeback. It feels like it's a matter of time now. That could be it. That could be what they need, but they're still struggling. DCR1 not caught in the blizzard, trying to train down.
They're not getting kills out of the blizzard.
They're not. They're getting nothing really. They threw down a nano boost onto Apuno as well. They're still doing a good job of stalling for time, but once again, the kill's not coming through. And now Machi, now they're committing the Dragon Blade. This can be the one that at the very least secures them a third, surely.
Yeah, I mean, the big struggle for Machi is they haven't even got their third yet.
Oh boy.
But for Fireball, this could be it.
Hold on, that's it. That's got to be it. It's only 9th. Wow. It's very, very rare that a team is on the point for that long and then still actually gets a wipe. That only happens when the skill disparity is enormous.
Now, this is exactly what I brought up. Apuno going to May that early, he should have stuck onto the Genji. When do you bring out the May in the last third? Hey, okay, we're at 66%, now we do have to stall. And even if so, Apuno is not the one to go into the May, it's someone else. Put your other DPS on it, put your Ana on it, put somebody not your main carry, your main damage output, because where was the comeback mechanic for Fireball? There was none. The person that gets all their kills didn't exist at that point.
Yeah, you're actually quite right there, and I don't actually disagree with the May on defense. Like,
but there's a time.
Yeah, there is a time and a place for it, and even if you were actually committing to it in like, you know, actually this is how we're going to try and do this defense, you're right, don't commit your DPS player onto it. Commit someone else. Find a different way to make that.
And not at the start, like in the last third, sure. On the first third, what are you thinking?
And like I said as well, yeah, like I said as well there, that only happens that a team lasts on the point for that long when you're attacking, and then is also able to get a full team wipe. And like, it's not like they stayed alive. Like, Machi even lost a couple of members, but the remainder kept the fight alive long enough for them to come back in, and then got a team wipe enough to basically cap the whole thing in one go. That only happens when there is a big skill disparity. But gentlemen, is that actually enough to call this a blowout?
On Temple of Anubis, I'm going to say Fireball are far too close to actually capping out their attack for it to be a blowout. For this to be a good blowout in my mind wouldn't actually be Machi capping the first cap, although that would be extremely good. The expected realistic blowout would have been Machi preventing any cap, a 0% cap onto the second point. That would have been a blowout to me, but 90 whatever percent that Fireball got is too far for it to be a blowout.
And let's also talk about Machi's attack onto the second point as well. if you didn't have a team like Fireball coming in with a Mei during that first third, just way too early for your desperation mode defense, another team could have surely come back from that. And also, let's not forget the start of how that came out. You guys were saying during the game itself, both of these teams have similar ultimates. They've got about the same amount coming into it, there's about 4 per team. Dragon Blades came out, and both of them found pretty much no kills. I think one very near the end. But for the defending team, that's fantastic, because whether they kill you or not, you're going to have guys coming in. They have to work even harder to finally find a kill on you, start getting that numbers advantage where they can keep people on the point and hold it with 5 or 6 people, because that's what you need to fully cap a point. Now imagine if that was against a team that wasn't swapping off onto Mei at the very first second, the very first chance that they get. That's a team that's going to punish you for wasting all of your ultimates and running out of gas way too early in that first snowball push.
Okay, so gentlemen, with that now, Machi do actually put themselves 7-7. They tie for 4th place with Hong Kong Attitude, who were previously uncontested at that 4th place for the longest time. Machi have kind of redeemed themselves over the course of the second round robin, and that does conclude the second round robin for them. Now, I want to say 2 things are quite apparent here. I think the first is that Fireball will not be breaking top 4. Maybe they do it right at the end, but by that point they will finish 4th and still not make playoffs. Machi do not currently look like a top 3 team, even as they are tied for 4th. But gentlemen, can they still be a top 3 team? They have redeemed themselves over this round robin. There are still 2 more to go before playoffs. Can they do it, and how do they do it?
Machi would have to come back and, in the 3rd round robin, improve as much as they did between the 1st and 2nd round robin. That the rate of improvement would have to continue at the exact same rate. I can't slow down. If we're going to look at it like a graph, it's got to keep going at the same pace it has
If
been
anything,
so far.
we'd want it to speed up, surely.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, that would be great for them, of course. Improve even more. That sounds, why don't they just do that? So
Why don't you just get even better?
what they need to do is get better than every
get-
team.
yeah, they
but
just
here's
need
the
to
problem.
get
But
better.
here's the problem. As Machi got better, so have AHQ, right? So AHQ have got phenomenally better. They had a 7-0 run this round robin, and guess what? Flash Wolves just came back to beat Blank, so technically, although they had a rough run, they are now better as well. The only team in that top 3 that may look like, and we'll find out very soon, if they have gotten better themselves, is Blank. But Blank are Blank, and they are still one of the top teams in the competition.
Sure.
So it's like,
Yeah.
Machi are catching up, but also the target they're catching up to is also moving ahead.
Yeah, and actually to kind of speak to that, I mean, like I said, this is what defined a lot of the second round robin, was right at the top of it, Machi beat Flash Wolves. That was, at that point, unprecedented, right? Flash Wolves were, of those 3 Taiwanese teams, looking like the strongest, and then the only team ahead of them still was Blank. And then Flash Wolves have gone on to be Blank. So you sort of look at all that, and then you look at Machi's more recent performances, and you really do start to raise those questions. But gentlemen, if they played Flash Wolves again, given that they beat them once, what worked for them? Like, can they still tap into that?
Yeah, so what worked for them, I feel, was more so what didn't work for Flash Wolves than what worked for Machi. So Machi, all they did was punish Flash Wolves. No, all they did. But what they did was well respected, but they punished Flash Wolves appropriately and accordingly. And then they also leveraged their own win conditions on top of that to be able to secure out the game. So for Flash Wolves, they honestly played, that was their worst weekend so far of the entire competition. And the Flash Wolves that came back in 3-0 Blank is a phenomenally different and far more outstanding Flash Wolves. And if that is the Flash Wolves that plays Machi again, Machi do not stand a
They had their
chance.
worst weekend, and then later they had their best weekend.
It's like Flash Wolves improved within a week more than what Machi improved between the 1st round robin and the 2nd round robin. Even with the results aside, performance-wise, Flash Wolves improved a lot. And even in the weekend that Machi did beat Flash Wolves.
Beat up Flash Wolves.
Beat up
They
Flash
them.
Wolves.
They took them into a back alley and just like.
Yeah. Well,
But then Flash Wolves got their
felt
big
like-
brother to come and beat up Machi.
It felt like that's what happened with that result,
Sure.
honestly. It turned everything on its head. But that was also the weekend that Flash Wolves were really trying very hard to run triple DPS. Really opting out of Lazy Titan on D.Va almost entirely. And really changing
Sorry,
up the...
you talking about Flash Wolves?
Yes.
Lazy Titan plays for HQ.
Sorry, not Lazy Titan. The other one.
The other one.
The other one.
I do know who. Yeah, the Flash Wolves Diva player. But just by the way, quick look in there, player of the game, of course, going over to Resty, a couple of sick boop kills, and
On well, I believe, was the main one.
He
And,
he threw a transcending Zenyatta into the well.
Did he?
Yes.
On
that,
well.
that was one of the three
That's
people.
what happened on well.
That would explain the play of the game. For sure. Yeah, definitely.
That's why.
Actually, known as on well, I was quite one of the first
played well.
concussives. One of the first concussive blasts he had. I kind of had to put my hands over my mouth for a second because I was like, I thought the concuss was about to blow.
Yes.
It was Kurlos on Zenyatta straight into the well
Okay.
during the transcendence.
They played well.
They played well as well on the well.
Not really, because they actually lost well the first time around.
What do we have
to Fireball.
here? But then when they came back on well, they played much better.
That's true.
They played more well than before. They looked well.
Yeah, I think
Their wellness had
Okay,
improved.
this is
we're
done.
well
This is-
past
No,
this now, please. Look, we're past this now.
Like a horrible steak, this is definitely well done.
You're not helping anyway.
Really not.
So,
Like, that, I'm sorry, no, hold on. That just, like, that ruffled every single one of my feathers. Not only
we are
was
going
it
to move on, I think.
Yeah, not only was it an awful pun, you also reminded me of bad steak. But let's go ahead and take a look at this interview with Machi.
为什么那个赛前呛虾是派你？
因为可能大家都比较腼腆吧，然后我可能乐色话比较多，所以就先找我来上来垫一下，
大家比较腼腆，
对吧？
队友比较害羞。今天虽然是3-0，你觉得今天有没有觉得自己哪一趴特别神？
鲁巴尼吧，突然换一个闪光，突然回来撑个大概5到10秒吧。
撑个5到10秒，其实还蛮强的耶。
没有啦，因为前面送掉了。
前面弄掉。好，那我们来聊聊比赛内容。虽然今天说是3-0，看起来乍看之下蛮顺利的，可是其实在伊利欧斯的第一张图的时候，有点替你们担心哎，
So
感觉好像打得特别辛苦。
Looked like a good win for you, but
可
everybody
能
else was
对
really
方
close.
热起来了吧？我们刚第一场而已，所以我想说怎么打的好像蛮辛苦的这样子。
什么刚第一场？你们今天也才一场比赛而已。
所以可能一场都要自求多福一下。
所以一
Yeah, they
定要有
weren't
上一
quite
场热
prepared in
身，
that
手感才会比较
initial
好
first
嘛。
round.
有可能有这种魔力啊。
有这种魔力，怎么可以这样？还是要加油，好不好？那在伊利欧斯那张图的时候 ，Fireball 有哪一位选手或他们的什么策略让你们特别难打吗？
What was difficult about what Fireball were doing
其实
on
他们
Ilios?
欧布头跟 NZNR 就是不要命的一直往我们后排冲，就是什么闪光3瞬就上来了什么的。就是
Inznar and Apudo in
我们到后
particular
面我们有赶快
successfully
纠正回来
dived our
就是
backline
赶快
a
保
lot.
后排，不然2个不要命的冲过来，我们是很难打。
是你们自己发现的吗？还是后排在惨叫说是要不要保我们啦？
应该是后排在惨叫啊。
所以后来才发现啊，我们后排好像一直死，赶快去保他们。
对。
说到保后排，再来是在努巴尼这张图有看到你们是使用了托比昂来做防守嘛？那托比昂防守其实有一个很大的问题是，你们一定知道对方会抓你们位置嘛，所以你一开始选拦路猪就是要特别是要保护炮塔。
其实也没有啦，就是右边就是看我顾3路嘛，然后结果第一个不小心被那个欧布头弹死了，然后赶快换闪光。
所以你就是直
Yeah, so
接
you
炸
play
掉啦，是
you
吗？
played Torbjorn
对
and so
所以
what
闪
were you
光
guys trying to
是
do there?
目的是为了要拖点。
对啊，赶快回防，然后让那个瑞斯亚赶快盖好炮台，然后我们再继续守，然后没想到就守住了。
所以闪光
Didn't
之后
work
就
too
不
well.
需要
Changed
再
the
换回
tracer
来了。
really quickly to try and contest the point
因为
again.
也来不及回去换脚啊，等下换脚，等下对方打进来。
也是守住这一点就好了。那再来，我看很多网友都说，哎，怎么好像神庙是你们的主场，每次打神庙都特别强。
其实我们也没有真的很认真去念阿鲁比斯神庙，只是不知道为
You
什
guys
么突
always
然
look quite
打
strong
比
on
赛的时候都会
Anubis.
变妙攻啊，可能妙攻要换人做一下。
还是跟马吉一起有关系。
We
是不
don't
是
actually practice
Okay.
Temple Anubis that much.
好了，那还是恭喜你们获得今天胜利。记得下次要先热手感，好吗？
好
不要让大家
谢谢
担心。好了，那我马上进入我们的沙发区，也进入更深入的访问喽。
Man, they sped through that one very quickly. I'm not gonna lie. It was,
Then somewhere to
it was
be.
just like, bam. And I was just like, okay, I'm trying to catch
Machi.
up a little bit there, but you know, Machi, they kind of said it was they did get surprised by Ilios, by Fireball on Ilios in particular. They also had trouble dealing with Inznar and Apudo, diving backlines quite successfully, I guess, on basically every single map, and they had to spend more time committing resources to protecting their backline, specifically their supports. So there is that, and then also, you know, the comment about Temple Anubis. In fact, something about Machi is they more or less explain that they don't specifically go out of their way to practice Temple Anubis to specialize on it. It just so happens they got a good grasp.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that is their sentiment, right? Because that certainly felt like their strongest win out of the 3.
Yeah. And in general as well, because, you know, that assault has been where Machi usually comes out on top, if nowhere else.
Yeah, well, in any case, that kind of puts a lid on that one and wraps up that round robin for, I believe, both of those teams. So, unless there's maybe one more. No, that is that. That's the round robin for both of those teams, with Machi now comfortably tied for 4th place. Bit of a redemption story for them, and still plenty of room to move upward, but still a lot of questions about whether they'll break that top 3. And at that, we are going to go ahead and take a quick break. When we come on back, we will have Blank looking to secure themselves a few more points to close out the round robin for them as they take on Detonator Gold. So don't go anywhere.